Hello, beautiful souls. Namaste and welcome. All right, so here we go, beginning a new series, and I want to welcome all of you and let's just have a little bit of a chat and tell you where I am with this and what's going on, introduce myself a little bit, and yeah, so let's just pause here. So hi, my name is Sadhana, and I'm an intuitive reader and healer and have been reading the tarot for a long time. I want to say somewhere between 25 and 30 years. And this is an absolute love of mine. And for the most part, I have been working with and studying in the direction of the Rider-Waite-Smith. And for a long time, I have wanted to do a series that was a little more esoterically inclined. And I've spent a great deal of time pondering how in the world I'm going to approach this. And so I want to tell you a little bit about my approach and what we're going to do today and every Tuesday moving forward. So welcome, Tamian. It's lovely to have you here. When I say esoteric tarot, what that means is we're going to be looking at all kinds of associations, Kabbalistic associations. We're going to be looking at more astrology, sacred geometry, symbolism, and so forth. And if you had a look at the thumbnail I created, this is a Thoth-inspired series. And right off the top, I just want you to know I'm going to pronounce the word Thoth. And you might hear other variations on that. And I know there is some discussion about how that is actually pronounced. And so please forgive me. I'm just going to allow this word to slip off my tongue. I did spend some time over the years researching the, correct pronunciation, but none of us can go back to ancient Egypt and hear that. And whether this word is, anyway, I don't want to dwell on that. Hi, Dee. Hi, Elizabeth. Hello, Vanj. Welcome. Namaste. So this is a Thoth-inspired series. We will be looking at that deck each week. As well, I will be bringing in numerous other Golden Dawn inspired decks, and we'll be talking a little bit about the differences between decks and which ones are adhering more closely to the work of Aleister Crowley and Lady Freda Harris, and how I read these cards. I think that is going to be a really important part of these series, and how building in these layers can enhance our readings. Okay. I have lots of books on my table. We'll also be talking about books, and I have lots of decks on the table today. So, of course, I have the Thoth Tarot. I have Tabula Mundi on the table as well, M.M. Moline's second tarot deck. I did pull out New Era Elements, which is, I want to say in the major arcana, definitely is Thoth-inspired. I have also the Journey of the Sacred Bee. And when I did the interview with Gerald and Jilly, and we were talking about this deck, I specifically asked Kelly Burton if this was a Thoth-inspired deck, and she said that it was a Golden Dawn inspired deck. And so I want to talk about that a little bit as well too. I have a Vision Quest also here. And there's a few other decks I have on the table, but I haven't pulled out cards. I have Sun and Moon and Urban Tarot here as well too. So what my intention is, week to week, is to build in connections with these decks and also help to simplify what is going on, so that there is less intimidation in reading these decks. So when we are looking at a Hebrew letter, when we're looking at an astrological sign, planetary signs, that it is, it just is. It just is. Now, I watched a brilliant interview with Lon Milo Duquette yesterday, actually, that really got me fired up and thinking about, okay, how am I going to do this? Um, love that interview. And I will do my best to remember to link it in the description box below. And one of the questions the interviewer asked him was, what was the shift? What is the shift in energy from the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, Pamela Coleman-Smith's artwork, to what's going on in the Thoth deck with Lady Frida Harris's work? And his answer blew my mind. He was hilarious. He kind of went off on tangents in all kinds of different directions. But basically, he said that this deck um, ushered in a new era. And what he was describing was what seemed like a stereotypical perspective of millennials and or maybe not even millennials, a new generation of people that is very, very needy. And he didn't quite finish that thought. But I will be coming back to that interview and referencing it, as well as referencing Lon's book from time to time as well, too. And Maline's book that she did with Susan Chang, I will be referencing Tarot Deciphered, as well as lots of other references. So yeah. So this is going to be a busy series with lots of information. And I also want to front load that I am by no means an expert. I am a lover of the tarot. I am a bit of a nerd when it comes to studying. I am curious, and I want to I want to feel more connected to these sorts of decks and share with you how I go about approaching them, perhaps in a different way. So I want to say hi. Yes, Joseph says Lon Milo is quite a character. He is a character, and there are lots of interviews and different conversations. He has his own channel, so he might be somebody that you want to follow on YouTube. Okay. Hi to Dee. Welcome. Namaste. Evangelina and Amy. Hello. Elizabeth. And yeah. And Dee has Tarot of the She. Ah, interesting. That is a deck. So here's another thing. Tarot is energy, and all of the messages on the cards are energy. And I love working with the tarot that way. I will be bringing in things that are very much, can I say, they're my interpretations as well too. So you're not going to be hearing canned interpretations from different deck creators and so forth. I also, in the description box below, so page 44 in the Book of Thoth, I laughed so hard when I read this, because I feel like this kind of a study, there are so many layers, and I know that it can be really overwhelming. And on the end of, so partway down page 43, he's talking about the Tetragrammaton and the way that the verses in Exodus contain 72 letters, and that if you read it this way and this way and this way, how it all kind of works out in this magic mandala. Goes on to describe these details. and all of the things that we can pick up from reading that. And then he says, it is quite useless to study all these attributions. They could only be wanted in case of wishing to get into actual communication with one of them for some special purpose. These matters are here mentioned for the sake of completeness. But the tarot will lose all its vitality for one who allows himself to get sidetracked by pedantry, by pedantry. So I really needed to hear that. And I want to say that this particular book is one that I have gone back to again and again and again. And so I think taking this in pieces is also an approach that is going to be really helpful. Hi, Janine. And Amy's here. Hi, Amy. Welcome to you. And Misty. Hello, Misty. It's been ages. So welcome. Welcome to you. So what I'm going to do is focus on seasonal cards. We're going to start with death today as we have moved into Scorpio season. And we're going to look at the energy of the Prince of Cups. We're going to talk a little bit about the difference between the King of Cups, the Knight of Cups, and the Prince of Cups. I'm going to address that. And then next week, we're going to look at the associated minor cards, and we're going to bring this all together. So Scorpio season is about Scorpio cards. And that's how we're going to start the series, being in kind of the flow of where we are astrologically. Okay, so that's my plan. And I see Sharon is here, Trio of Witches. And Sharon, I just want to say that I'm not sure if you realize you were the winner of the 30-minute reading with me when I did the 4K subscriber draw. And so please email me at your convenience and we'll set up a time for our session together. Okay? All right. So I guess you didn't see that video in playback. Anyway, I'm glad we've connected here. Okay. You've been so busy. Oh, don't apologize. Don't apologize. Okay. So let's begin. Let's look at the cards. So if you have a tarot deck at hand, you can pull out the death card. And we're going to start with that. Okay. And let's go into the energy of water and just talk a little bit. Yes, happy new moon. So, and also, I think this is brilliant how I was humming and hawing and humming and hawing about this series, and it's a new moon and it's an eclipse, and we're starting with Scorpio. And I love the way this has all come together. Yeah. The energy of water. So, one of the brilliant things in working with this particular deck, in this particular card, is that we have the energy of water in this card. And I know that in the Pamela Coleman Smith artwork, we do see a river in the distance, but here we see the Grim Reaper, we see Osiris underwater, and all of this swirling energy. It's as if, to me, we have dove into the depths of the ocean. And that is what Scorpio season is to me. It is a kind of fearlessness of it's so different in Cancer and Pisces season. And when we dive in feet first and we are willing to be a part of our own unique transformation, I think this is it's hugely brave. It's hugely brave. And so when I'm working with this particular deck and we see the energy of water swirling around death, swirling around the Grim Reaper, Osiris, whatever name you want to put to the skeleton that's in the card, it feels more potent and I can tune into the energy. And there is a lot of movement in this card as well too. The skeleton is, you can see the movement of the body, the position of the bones, the swirling of the water, the creation of the bubbles. It's all very, very active. It's almost as if we want to get this done. You know, we want to dive into the water and deal with whatever pattern or issue has come to the surface, and we're ready finally to, to wind this up. And we will be talking more about this in live readings a little bit later today, but I really feel um, a tremendous amount of respect for those who have incarnated and chosen a Scorpio sun, a Scorpio moon, lots of Scorpio in their chart, because this is not an easy sign to work with. This is, like I said, it's incredibly brave to do this kind of work. The scythe. The scythe is a really powerful symbol. And those of you that have studied Lenormand with me, like the scythe, what the effect of the scythe is irreparable. The work of this, what is done with the scythe is quick, it's over, and we can't undo it. And I think there are times in our lives where the decision to end something, wow, Tamian, that's yeah, let's just say hats off to your son. There are times in our life where we need to embrace that fearlessness and look very closely at the ending of what is ready to come to a completion and an end. And what I'm feeling in this card is that there is a responsibility, a self-responsibility. There is a self-action that is required to make this decision. The water would not be swirling if it weren't for the influence of the action in this card, the influence of air, the influence of fire, right? It's not a card where we see the water sitting still. The water is stirred up, and we are choosing to stir up the water, and we're choosing to come to I want to say quite a woke experience of something ending. And whether you are choosing to take that scythe and end a contract, break a lease, end a relationship, whether you are ready to break ties with your hometown, this is something that is there's no pussyfooting around this. I've heard a few different, sorry, banging my table here, taking off my slippers. I have heard a few tarot tubers talk about this card, and I think it was Carrie Mallon. I remember one time she was talking and she said, the problem with this card is, as humans, we can't decide. Something has to come to an end. We can't sort of end something. And if you if you read Lenormand and you understand the power of the scythe as a cutting tool, I think this is hugely important. Now, let's look at some of the other symbols in this card, because this is going to help us when we're looking at other decks and related cards as well, too. Excuse me. So down on the bottom of the card, I'm going to have you lean over. So I'll get my pointer here. You can see the scorpion down on the bottom. And the scorpion is between two flowers. You can see a rose on this side and a lily over here. And there is a lot of symbology in these cards, but There's something here about, there's a lot of, what we see in this card is a lot of symbology of renewal of life. And I think the fear of death is that we won't come back, things won't be renewed. But there is a promise of renewal in this card. And when we look at the scorpion here between the two flowers, like this is very much like looking at the fool and the world, right? This is the alpha and the omega. This is the cycle of life. And this is the scorpion between worlds. I'm sure you've heard lots of discourse about why the scorpion kills itself in a situation where it thinks it can't get out. But think about this as a fearlessness about the cycle of life. I also have all these other things coming to my mind, just things from Marie White in studying the Marielle Tarot, and about the symbol of the Ouroboros and all of that. So if you look at the bottom of this card, we have this indication that life indeed will be renewed. Okay. Now, there's something very, when I look at this card, I also see Om symbols everywhere. So the Om is written, and I'm writing upside down here. So we're kind of like writing a 3, and then there is a tail that goes off it, and then a couple of diacritics up at the top. I, just because of who I am seeing the Om shape down here as well, and perhaps in other parts of the card as well too. Aleister Crowley, I want to say that there is a lot of Eastern references in this deck as well too. And if you refer to the Book of Thoth, right on the very first page, we are reminded of that. And this is a poem of sorts, I suppose, from the Book of Lies. This is in the before, I guess this is part of the preface of the book, before the table of contents. And the poem is called Wheel and Woe. The great wheel of samsara, the wheel of law, dharma, the wheel of tarot, the wheel of the heavens, the wheel of life, all these wheels be one, yet of all these, the wheel of tarot alone avails thee consciously. Meditate long and broad and deep, O man, upon this wheel, revolving it in thy mind. So that's not the whole thing, but just in those first couple of lines, he refers to samskaras and he refers to dharma. So this to me is an indication we have permission, if you will, to go there, if that is a spirituality that connects with you. And it certainly does connect with me. And if you even look, people have also said that the shape of the legs and some of the other swirls in the card, we can also see the symbol for Saturn. And Saturn referring to Father Time and all of that. So this is so brilliant. So why Om? Why Om? Why am I seeing Om? Because Om is the symbol for creation. Om was the sound that existed before anything else existed. Om, I have so many stories of Om, but when you meditate, when you practice chanting and you Om, it's almost as if you join a sound that exists in the universe already. And so for me to see the symbol Om in this card is like another sign that this is a card of life and renewal and reincarnation and death and birth, and there is no fear of death. It's simply a card of the natural process of renewal. And so when we're talking about Scorpio, each of the astrological signs has different aspects to it. Also, I'm not an astrologer. I'm just I'm not an astrologer. Okay. So if there are astrological facts that I seem to get wrong, please feel free to open a discussion, a friendly discussion in the chat or in the comments later. Okay. So the scorpion evolves, right? So the scorpion evolves, and we see the evolution of Scorpio as we move upward in the card. We see the eagle up here at the top. Now, in the tarot, the fixed astrological signs are hugely important, and we see them repeated in cards such as the wheel and the world. And this should give you some indication how important this card is, how important this time is, this season is. And this also makes me wonder, why. I'm sure there's lots of discourse on this, but why this card was not named in the Tarot de Marseille. It's almost like it's so big and it's so beyond. And here we are starting with this card today. All right, I want to just go to Pax's comment. I've hated for long my Scorpio moon, which reminded me a terribly violent person. I'm learning to be in peace with it and make it my own. I think this is, and we will, when we get to Capricorn season, look and contrast and compare Death and the Devil, because these are very interesting cards to compare. Because even though the Devil is of the earth element, there is a great deal of there are many lessons that we can bring in contrasting Death and the Devil. And why I'm saying this is because I want to support Pax in this challenge, because if we're not able to embrace our shadows, you don't need to be embarrassed about the stuff you're working through. The more you can be transparent about it, I think the easier it is. Okay. Oh, and you have a Capricorn sun. Oh my goodness. Well, hop on for this conversation, because this is going to be a lot. This is going to be a lot of fun. Okay. Now, can I address the aspect of creation in regards to Kundalini energy, the phallus that we see in this card, right? And these bubbles, and we see different in these bubbles. We see this sense of whether you want to look at it as bubbles or sperm or, I don't know, life force or something, centrifugally, naturally moving from the depths of the ocean up to the surface, right? There's movement in this card. And I think this is something that's quite different from the Rider-Waite-Smith card, where where death is standing quite still. And I think I have this card here, hopefully. It feels different to me. It feels very different. It's like a slow and careful, it's such a different perspective. And so working with this deck gives me, can I say, more to work with. I wanted to talk about Kundalini. I think this is a hugely misunderstood experience. Hello, Sonic Tarot. And part of the experience of awakening, of being awoke, and the effects of, whether we're talking about a very preliminary experience of whether it is a spiritual orgasm or a physical orgasm, that experience is not complete until the energy also descends. So the idea of Shakti rising and Shakti descending brings in a completeness and a unification of the masculine and feminine energies. If we only experience the ejaculation, if we only experience the orgasm and we don't integrate it, it's not a complete experience. And I think the symbol over here, where we see the fish and the snake, this is an important part of this conversation. And so what Pax was saying, and I think when a lot of people are working with issues of death and endings and loss, is that that integration piece is hugely important, so that we find, now remember, this is also, right, so this is a fixed sign, and the fixed signs in the minors, we're looking at 5, 6, and 7. 5, 6, and 7 in the minors. 6 is in the center. 6 is fundamental to this card. 6 is the hexagram, where we bring together the divine feminine, the divine masculine energy into union. And it is through the union of the masculine and feminine energy that we find harmony and balance and peace. And so I think it's really cool that symbol is not so subtly included here. Frida, it's interesting. Lon Milo Ducat talked about Frida, and her husband was a politician, and he was not a duke, right? He was not a landowner. The lady bit is not a title. So he called her Frida Lady Harris. I thought that was really interesting, but that's neither here nor there. She was this incredible artist, and her surreal cubic designs included a massive uh, precision with sacred geometry. And we can also take some time in this series to look at the sacred geometry and the effects of the lines and the webs and things that are in the background of each of the cards. And I think here, one of the things we want to look at, and it's funny, when I look at this upside down, like I am right now, I'm kind of seeing riggings of the mast of a ship. That's actually very cool. Wow. But you can see that everything, all this webbing, connects into the groin area here. Connects down to the right knee as well too, the right side connected to action. And so what I want to encourage you to do is to look at I feel like I'm teaching yoga, looking at the source of the sacred geometry and where it expands to, because I think that itself is a really important layer in allowing yourself to find and build connections to what is important in the particular reading that you are looking at. Okay. Now, with our study in our chat here, I want to be completely transparent, be able to talk about anything and everything. And today, this is a public video, but from next week, it is going to be a members feature. And if you are not a member of my channel, it's $5 a month in Canadian dollars. And there's a whole bunch of videos already. The Lenormand series, many of the card comparisons are part of that as well too. The Marielle series, there's lots and lots of videos. So And all of those will be there in perpetuity. So I just want to put that out there. This also gives me a little more privacy, and I don't have to be so careful with looking at the chat and so forth. Okay. Okay, so I want to go on to the court card. And I said too that I wanted to talk. Oh, yes. One other thing, the Hebrew letter, Nun. And I would like to focus on and look at the layers of the Hebrew letter that is on the majors as well too. So we will be doing that. So the Hebrew letter, and again, my pronunciation, please forgive me, Nun, N-U-N, means fish. And so it is really important that we understand the connection, the magic, the mystery of fish and the symbolism of fish. And we could talk about this card, and we will. We're going to talk about this card for several weeks. And so we will bring in the associations of fish and the connections to Christ, as well as other avatars who we can learn from in the understanding of this card. Okay. Okay. And hopefully I have all the cards I need out. All right. So when we are referring to the Scorpion, I just want to go to Dee's comment before I go on. The Scorpion is willing to subject itself to change, and we need to bury old ideas and concepts. Can I use the word release instead of bury? When I read the word bury, it's like we don't want to deal with it. And I think part of understanding this is that energy is always in flow, right? Energy never disappears. And so the old ideas and concepts don't disappear. We're just in the process of transforming, releasing, returning it to Mother Earth and so forth. To me, bury creates toxicity. It creates, I think there needs to be an intention of release anyway. I don't want to belabor that point, but yeah, we want to release old ideas. We want to be open to a flow of change, to the renewal, like we see with the Scorpion below. Okay. Tetragrammaton. Tetragrammaton is a hugely important symbol when we are talking about esoteric tarot. And I think it's hugely important when we're talking about tarot in general. And for those of you that are taking my Tarot Foundations class, I am building it more and more. So the more times I'm teaching this class, the more I'm kind of getting into this. But we have this really amazing magical layer that is, if you want to say, hidden even in this particular deck, where we have the energy of fire, water, air, and earth. Yod He Vav He. And this is something that can get really confusing when we are contrasting and comparing the Thoth Tarot with the RWS Tarot. So I just want to put these cards down here. So we're going to go Queen for Queen. Thought I had these cards out. Just bear with me 1 second. I just want to get out the Knight, and the Page of Water. I thought I had it out. My bad. Sadhana. There we go. There's the Knight and the Page of Water. And I want to go over this multiple times so that we can, I know, that's why this is me and this is not Crowley. Okay, so yeah. Okay, where was I? Fire, water, air, earth. So when we are looking at and comparing the court cards, these are the correlations: king and knight, queen and queen, knight and prince, page and princess. Okay. However, when we're talking about astrological associations, there is a difference between these two decks, and this is what I want to address at this time. So when we're talking about cardinal symbols, the queens come in 10 degrees before the start of the symbol until 20 degrees of the symbol. And so the queens are consistent with these two decks. Okay, so that's a non-issue. The pages are not directly connected. The pages and princesses are not directly connected to the astrological association. However, this is where it gets a little confusing, and I hope that I don't screw this up when I'm talking about the astrology of the tarot. Okay. And especially for those of you that are taking my class or have taken my classes. Okay. In this deck, in the Pamela Coleman Smith deck, Rider-Waite-Smith deck, the kings are connected to the fixed astrological signs. So 10 degrees before the sign starts until 20 degrees. Okay. 10 degrees of the previous sign till 20 degrees of the sign. And so and then in this deck here, the knights are associated with the mutable signs, 10 degrees before to 20 degrees of the sign. However, in Crowley's deck, and I want to look at other decks as well too, to see if they are going in the same direction. And I know that for sure in Mel's decks, so the Tabula Mundi and the Rosetta Tarot, it follows along as well too. The princes are connected to the fixed signs, and the knights are connected to the mutable signs. Now this, I lost my knight. So what we've got here is mutable and mutable. And fixed and fixed. Okay. So associated with death is the Prince of Cups. And this is a card that we are going to look at a little more closely in terms of the associated minor arcana next week. But what I would like you to think about before we reconvene is all of the King of Cups cards in Rider-Waite-Smith clones that leave you feeling a little put off by this card. And we see the eagle, we see the scorpionic connection here, we see the eagle here. We also have a lot of flow of energy in this card. However, the Prince of Cups is flying above the water. The Prince of Cups is not in the water, in the depths. The Prince of Cups is not even touching the surface. And so, what does that tell you? What does that tell you? We also see here the tremendous influence of air. If you look at the clouds, you look at the turbulence in the water as well too. Things are definitely in motion. There is a sense of action. And so this connects these two cards here in that regard. I would also like to dive into numerological associations, and we will do that, of course, when we bring in the minors. But yeah, that is part of this as well too. Okay, Sonique Tarot, just bear with me. I'm going to look up your name just in case I do know your name. For those of you that are new to my channel, I do have a list of people's names that helps me to remember who people are. And Sonique Tarot is Susie. Okay, great. And I apologize for not remembering. Mind over emotions. Hello, Saskia. All right. So what is going on here? What is going on? This also is an important part of understanding the energy of the Tetragrammaton. And so let's go back. So there we have our knight, our princess, our queen. So let's do this. Okay. So when we're looking at the worlds in the Kabbalah, we have the energy of fire and the energy of water. And the energy of fire and the energy of water come together to create the element of air. And here we have air of water. And we're looking at here the influence of the mind on the water. The influence of the mind on the water. And that's going to be an important part of our look at the minors that are connected to this. Before I go, I just wanted to ask you a question because I think that it's kind of a rhetorical question, but so this is an exercise that I've been doing because most of the Golden Dawn or Thoth-inspired decks don't go into, in their little white books, a discussion of the astrological associations. Now, granted, some of them do have symbols on the cards, but in the case of Journey Through the Sacred Bee, here we have air of water and fire of water. And I want to propose that this is following the Crowley Tarot and taking us into the depths of our feelings. And so that I would call this the Scorpio card as opposed to this the Scorpio card. But that's something that you you may disagree with me on. Okay. Elizabeth, I will try to pull out that deck next week so we can have a look at those cards. And I think Dee has, so one of the key words for scorpionic energy, of course, is secrets. And I think, yeah, I feel that as well too. And also, it appears to me like this particular Knight of Cups is indeed underwater. Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you for joining me today. And next week, we're going to carry on talking about the cards that are connected to Scorpio. And so the fixed signs are the middle triads. So 2, 3, 4 are cardinal signs. 5, 6, and 7 are the fixed signs. And we're going to look at those cards in relation to the Prince of Cups and the Scorpio card next week. Okay. Janine, I've not got my decks on me. Okay, great. And let me know if there are any questions or revelations for those of you that are watching the playback, and also any requests. But like I said, we're going to be following the astrological calendar for the time being and bringing in the relationship between all of the cards. Okay, I look forward to seeing some of you next week. Take good care. Namaste.